ready.
Hi, I'm Megan Ackerman from the city's communications department, and welcome to Alderman at Work. Today's guest is Alderman at Large Will Mbah, who was sworn in as a new alderman this past January. Alderman Mbah grew up in Cameroon, traveled to Sweden to earn a master's degree in environmental science, and then immigrated to the United States in 2010 through the American Diversity Lottery Program. Shortly after immigrating to the U.S., Alderman Mbah moved to Somerville. He became a citizen in 2015 and now lives with his family in West Somerville. Welcome to Alderman at Work.
Thank you for having me.
So as a new alderman, I'm sure people kind of want to get to know you a little bit better. So what made you decide that you wanted to run for this position?
First, I want to, before I respond, I just want to thank you for having me here. And
oh, yeah.
Thank you to, Somerville City TV. It's quite a nice gesture to invite me to come and be part of this show. So yeah. I'm grateful for that. So what makes me decide to run was the fact that I've moved around the city, many times, a city that I really love and cherish. And I told myself that, I've watched my friends moved out of the city so many times. And I also don't just believe in complaining, I really detest people who complain but without creating, I want to criticize something constructively, find a way, to solve the problem. I'm always trying to be part of the solution, not part of the problem or just part of those that are criticizing. So I told myself that the only way for me to make a difference is to run for office. Because if I move out, like most of the people that I know that have moved out, I don't matter anymore for those in office to worry about. So that was my motivation. Because having been forced to move around so many times, first I must say I'm a renter. So, being forced to move so many times, just within a short amount of time, it's one of the things that motivated me to run for office.
Sure. And before this, had you had any sort of political or organizing experience?
Yes and no.
Sure.
I mean, so back in college in Cameroon, I was the vice president of the student organization in college. So I don't know if that's,
That's something.
Yeah, so
I'm sure
I was
you're doing
always
similar
involved,
things.
in protests, trying to align myself with the values of the student, to seek the right things, to make sure that we are being treated fairly, so yeah, but I don't come from any political backgrounds. I don't have any, but I know that I'm a dedicated activist. I like to be involved, and also being part of the communities. When I moved to Somerville, I volunteer with different organizations, knowing how it works, like cafe, community, assessment of free exposure and health, So we were doing that experiment with Alex Barr, one of my friends that was working also for the city.
Okay, yeah.
So, so I've been involved in community stuff, even as diversity chair of the city City Democrat. So I kind of also, activated this concept of early voter registration for high school kids, even though we probably got maybe 1 or 2 students to register. So, I mean, that's
Everybody
that's
counts.
as far as my, my political,
Sure,
but I also helped so many other people, during their campaign for office. So, maybe Matt McLaughlin when he was running, Maria Curotoni when she was running for Register of Deed. I think so far those are and then Mike Connolly, so Pat Jalen. So I was kind of so I I learn as I go around, you know.
Sounds like this is something you've been interested in for a long time. What made you decide on alderman at large instead of ward alderman, school committee, some other position? What was it about that position that grabbed you?
I think when you have to, first of all, be intentional when you're trying to do something, So I thought about it. A lot of people said, oh, well, maybe you should, start here, like start there. And I mean, I always think about making big impact. I'm always like an impact-oriented person. Like, how can I make, a wider impact, in a way that can be felt, by everybody, not just a localized group of people. And I must say that, so I thought to myself that, well, okay, I'm running, I might be the only minority on the board, so there's no minority that are just specific, to a ward. They are all over the city.
Right.
So why don't I run, for city at large? Yeah. But at the same time, thinking about it in retrospect, like the whole, I think everybody cares about the entire city. That's
right. It's a small city.
Yeah, and then the barrier to entry too was so tough that I was like, oh, I'm not sure. It was too late for me to like backtrack, right. But I just had to go through.
It's just, I'm sure running at large, where you have to campaign through the whole city, is it may be not more work, but definitely a different kind of work than if you had run in you live in Ward 7?
Yes.
If you had run there in sort of a smaller area. So actually, I wanted to ask you about campaigning, and if you talk a little bit about your experiences leading up to the election, kind of what you did, who you met, what you were hearing from people.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's, I can say that, the campaigning it ranged from, excitement to overwhelming to work, like to frustration, to trying to give up, and then, like people say no, so I had like a lot of mixed emotion, I must say, First, generally it was great, but when I realized, midway into the process that, wow, it's such a tough, the barrier to entry for aldermen at large, it's like you have to pull a tooth to actually win this thing. And so I started realizing that there's just so many people, like every single day I go out, I meet like maybe 50% of, what am I talking about? Like almost everybody I met has never heard about me.
Right.
So that was kind of like, it demoralized me in a way. At the same time, there was also some excitement because they were also excited to hear about me, excited about my story. So that also motivated me. But each time I'll be thinking like, so how can I just, get all these people together and, like tell them about myself, So it was tough, but the whole thing was building like a right team around you. That was like a nice thing that I was able to do, like, to stay on my message, focus about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to say. At some point, just the relationship, the people that I met, I mean, like the Honorable Mike Capuano was the first person to even sign my nomination paper, So, I mean, like, I went to an event called Indivisible Somerville, I don't know. Yeah. So I met him there. That was like when I had my nomination. So, I mean, it was just exciting to see like how, and almost everybody I've met in the city were really willing to, help in terms of advice, support, because generally the city is amazing. And when I moved here, the community members, especially like one of the first people that I met was Gene Brun. He's the one that even helped me purchase my first car. So I always give him a shout out anytime I see him, So it's, I mean, I've had like a lot of positive feedback from people, like really, wishing me well and hoping that, like the city can open up to this, like the diversity too that they were looking for. And, so it was tough at the same time, it was exciting, it was overwhelming, it was exhausting. I think the most scary part was the fact that even on election day, I was actually in Davis Square trying to like shake hands, and yet somebody will still meet me and say, well, I've never heard about you. What's your platform? And I do vote. You know, so that was like, I was like, wow, like, this is like, that's why I'm not going to win this thing. Like, this is.
Yeah, it can be hard to get the information out there. And I was going to ask, too, did you find, you know, I think a lot of people are very tuned into national politics and, you know, maybe state politics, but were you having to kind of educate people as you went along about, like, what is this position I'm running for? How does this work?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like, almost, you know, like, everybody that I also met, they will be asking me, like, what is Alderman? You know, so I'll be trying, you know, and sometimes, like, the explanation is always, like, different for different people if I try to explain. So at a certain point, I just start saying city councilor. Just so then
most people have an idea what that is.
So when they say, like, what is Alderman, or, you know, I say city, you know what, city council is the same. So it's not different. So that is how I kind of like navigated through that, by defining, like, you know, what the position is that I'm running for.
Mm-hmm. So when you were out campaigning, I'm sure you talked to tons and tons of people.
Thousands.
Yeah. What were some of the things you were hearing from people that, you know, either part of your platform that resonated with them, or things that they were bringing up to you that were, you know, really important to them?
I think number one thing, you know, that I heard was, you know, about affordability. Mm-hmm. That was like the key. That took like everybody that I spoke with. They say, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't even matter your income. They say, oh, well, I own this property, but my kids can't afford to live here anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was one of the key things. And then they also talked about development, mm-hmm. you know, that there's so much development happening, you know, like, and which they're all linked, you know. It's like,
all of these things are related.
And then they talk about traffic as well, you know. And then I heard, you know, each time when I knocked doors in Ward 1, I heard about rats, mm-hmm. you know. So I don't know if because in West Somerville, like where I live on Woods Ave, I haven't really like seen any rats around there. So I don't know if they migrated to some different parts of, you know. So they talked about rats, and then also there's some people also get also personal about like the things that they're looking for. Somebody took me to their backyard, talk about like they need a skating ring for their kids, you know, like this. So this, I mean, people, there's so many different issues, and people will tell you their story. There are people that even, you know, like think, there was a gentleman that I met, I mean, like he said he just recovered from like cancer, and he was asking me like if there's some way that, you know, like the city could help him, you know, like to, you know, guarantee him parking so that he doesn't have to pay because he has to put more money for his medication. Like there are all these tough things that you don't even, you know, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then the worst of all, Megan, this one, I don't know if it's going to shock you or not, but that really demoralized me, especially hearing that here in Somerville, that there were so many homeless kids in the high school.
Yeah,
that was
there's
like, you know,
a big population.
Yeah, I mean, like I was so demoralized because, you know, like living all the way from Cameroon, and then, I mean, I'm relatively also new here, but I mean, I could not expect to hear something like that. So you know, and I keep telling myself, how can these kids study when they don't have a place to live, you know? And when we have, say, you know, like all this cancellation about snow emergency and so, you know, like where do they eat? You know, maybe that's their only meal. Like I will get emails up to recently, like when there's like school cancellation, there are other people that care about this. What's happening to these kids that nobody is looking, you know? So what is the plan for them? So it's, I mean, so some of these things, they all vary, and they can be so emotional, and then you're thinking about it, you listen, you don't know what is the right thing, you know, and at the same time, you're all there, you know. That's why as soon as I got into office, I put some of the first board orders to try to see how we can, you know, I mean, like, just get this conversation going and know where if I thought it has started, where it ended, and how come we are still hearing of something like this. So I mean, I know that the superintendent is doing a great job, you know, from what I can hear and tell, you know, but there's probably room for improvement and things that we can do better to make sure that everybody has a fair shot.
Yeah, there's always, like you said, things you can do better, things you can improve on. So as you were saying, you know, you're out there hearing these issues, you know, everything from, you know, maybe kind of small, very local things to, the pothole in front of your house to, you know, these really big issues like, you know, homelessness and affordability. Going into office, you know, how are you thinking about sort of kind of having to balance all of these and represent the needs of, you know, so many different people who, you know, some of them may be in conflict with each other or, you know, want different things? Yeah,
I mean, like, I can tell you, like, it's tough, you know. I cannot sit and pretend that there's like a silver bullet that can solve any of these issues that we are facing. And, you know, I'm trying to just, as you can tell, like, I'm trying to learn as much as possible, you know. I mean, I'm not only a new alderman at large, I'm also like, I'm considering myself relatively new to like everything, you know. So it's very challenging, and I'm also making sure that, you know, like I really process my thoughts carefully to, you know, learn as much as possible to make informed decisions or even opinions, because I mean there's a need, you know, like the community has so much demand, you know, and also, like, how do you balance those needs, you know, and the demands, and also allow the city to grow, you know? I mean, you have to, you know, you have to think critically. So, I mean, and you cannot, at the end of the day, I'll probably not everybody's going to be happy.
Right,
you know, look at some of the things that we are doing, you know, right now. You know, there's just so many, you know, conflicts, but it's all about what is right for the community. And I cannot say that it's easy. Like, it's just a tough, you know, conversations to have, and I'm always open to listen more. You know, always open to, you know, meet people, even, you know, at their convenience, just to, you know, like listen and know where they're coming from. Not necessarily saying that I would do it, like, but just to hear what the issue is. They feel valued, that even if they're in opposition, at least you've given them a chance to listen to them and hear their own concern. I mean, I think for the most part, people want to do, they all care about the community. Because, like, even some of the emails I get from, let's take, for example, this transfer fee. You know, as I mentioned the transfer fee, I want to give a shout out to Mayor Joe. You know, like, it's, he won my admiration because,
hot issue over the next couple of months.
You know, like, haven't, you know, put that, you know, as one of his 10-point plan. I mean, he already won my admiration. So to me, I know that he's at the forefront of that. So we are just merely following, you know, like from, you know, so it's like, you know, so it's like every single emails I've gotten, Megan, from those opposing this transfer fee, I can see a common denominator in all these emails, acknowledging that there's a problem.
Right.
You know, it's not like, so you can see that, wow, like, so they know that there's a problem, but they don't want to be part of the solution.
Right, or they think they have a different solution. Or,
no, they don't have any solution. Because, I mean, that's, like I said in the beginning, that I don't just like to criticize. I like to make constructive criticism. That's why if you follow me online or anywhere else, I don't just throw words left and right, you know, just to get attention. No.
Right.
You know? It's about results, not headlines. You know, what are you, you know, so when I'm reading, I'm trying to ask, like, so what is this person proposing now? Because I can see that you've acknowledged that there's a crisis, there's a problem, but you're like, go fix it. Don't, you know, like, so, you know, so it's like, I mean, so, and most, you know, great political decisions are never valued, you know, immediately. It's over time that people will appreciate it. So, I mean, and the right people will stick by you because they know that you're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah. So as you've been kind of, you know, trying to fact gather and you know, start to kind of drill down on some of these issues, have you found anything that's really surprised you, kind of looking into some of these things, or found something that you weren't expecting?
I mean, I can tell that everything surprises me because it's nothing is just as simple as, you know, what it seems.
Right.
You know, it's like I thought that, especially when we talked about like this transfer fee, or we talk about this, you know, right of first refusal, talk about all these bold ideas and decisions and solutions. I mean, when you're just talking and thinking about it, when I had it on my platform, I didn't really think that, I did not like dive deep to see like,
yeah,
you know. So it was kind of like, nothing is simple,
right?
You know. So everything, you know, and they say the devil is in the details. It's like there's so many things that, you know, and you really don't want to rush, you know, in doing some of these things. That's why, you know, we've like delay with the home rule petition for the tenant's right of first refusal. You know, you want to, you know, it's just one of those two in the two bar, and you want to take time to get it right. But at the same time, the clock is also ticking, you know, so, you know, you don't want people to feel rushed.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, you also want to, you know, get some things done. So I can tell you, like, this, I mean, everything surprises me. Even when we're voting for, like, the budget, you know, I was like, oh, well, I thought maybe budget is like a season for voting for, you know, new recruits. Why are they having it now?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still voted for it, you know? So there's all these things that you think everything is systematic, is organized, it has its time and place.
Yeah, sometimes things, they pop up, things
That is
change.
right. Yeah, the city is changing every day.
Yeah.
We must acknowledge that.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, how do you, you know, like, you also evolve too as the city is evolving with your thought process. You're not just rigid, you know, saying that this is like how things ought to be, and this, I mean, like, you don't, in this day and age, you have to keep evolving, you know, as things are evolving, as change is moving. The only thing that is constant is change. And once change is happening, you also have to change your ideology, change your perception, change your perspective, how you approach things, how you tackle them. So when you talk about surprises, like, I'm sure even tonight there will still be a surprise at the legislative meeting.
Yeah. Has there been anything already that you've changed your mind on, or is it more just you're kind of gaining some new perspectives and?
Let me see. What have I changed my mind on? I mean, I can think of some, you know, like think of anything right now that, you know, I mean, but I know that I'm giving everything a second thought, you know, because there's a lot that to factor in.
Right.
Yeah, so almost everything, it's not what I thought it was, you know. It's not just as simple as what it, you know, it looks like. So almost I look at what is happening in Union Square, for example, you know, it's like, there's like also the legal part of something that I'm not a lawyer also. There's also
right,
so
yeah.
There's so many, you know, things that are happening that I cannot, let's say, so, I mean, I went back and forth for like this transfer fee when they were saying like who pays, you know, whether it's the buyer or the seller. Yeah, I think I flip-flop on that one too, like, because, you know, when
there's arguments on both sides.
Yeah, so, and when you hear, and it will make sense,
Yeah.
and then, you know, but at the end of the day, again, when I looked at it again in retrospect, I'm like, it doesn't matter, you know, if it's the buyer that it's going to pay, or say, let's say, if it's the seller that is going to pay, for example, you know, like one person will adjust, you know, like the price just to balance, you know, to make sure that like he's not losing anything, you know.
Right, yeah.
So it's not something that, I don't know if it makes sense to pick who pays, who doesn't pay. But at the same time, you know, looking into different exemptions, sometimes I feel like, oh, well, you know, we should exempt it, we should exempt that. Before you know it, there's even no value doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah, you
because
have to balance
yes,
those
you know,
needs,
everything, because the main goal is to raise funds, you know, to, you know, subsidize affordability, you know, for the middle class that is disappearing,
yeah.
you know, and also for low-income people. And so the people that should be exempt, according to me, is probably, you know, the vulnerable and the low-income people who cannot afford.
Yeah.
Because we've gotten so much support from people who can also, who are homeowners, who said, well, if I'm making, you know, 500,000, you know, on a sale, 5,000 is not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
You know, of course, it's a big deal to other people.
Yeah.
So it's all about like the voice of the majority, you know, and also processing all that with your own personal values.
Yeah.
You know, what do you feel right about? So it's, I mean, I don't know. I think I changed my mind once, but it wasn't really like intentional. It was about like they voted for transportation planner.
Yeah.
And then there was a tie. I voted in favor. And then when it came back, like they severed the report and then brought it back because they wanted to gain like some other person to change their mind from a no to yes. But I that was on a yes changed to no because so many people spoke against and brought up new ideas that I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And then that triggered so many other people that were actually voting in favor to actually came out and support it in the strongest possible terms.
Yeah.
That made me also change my mind against that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of arguments on both sides of a lot of these issues. Certainly affordability is probably one of the, if not the most complex, one of the most complex issues that you all will be dealing with. And I know that's the one that's sort of on the forefront of, I think, everyone in Somerville's minds. But besides affordability, are there any other issues you're looking forward to championing or kind of digging into as you know over the next few months as you kind of settle in?
I mean, there's a lot, you know, that I mean, like, development is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to, you know, make sure, I mean, like, not that I'm against development, but I'm for responsible development, you know? We should, so I just feel like, you know, right now, we need to, like, there's so much we can do, like, you know, to get community involvement in this process so that people don't feel like they're left out and it's like a fast-moving train just passing in front of their backyard, you know. So, yeah, just to make sure that, I mean, there's responsible development in the community. I mean, of course, we have to keep attracting them as well because that's how you grow as a community, as a city. And also, I mean, I care about, you know, a living wage, you know. I don't know if we can enact a living wage ordinance in the city because I also don't think that you should work 40 hours in a city like this and still be struggling to live, you know. So that's, you know, some of the things that I want to see happen, you know. And then I also want to make sure that, I mean, we keep looking out for the kids that we have in our system, you know, protecting them should be our number one goal, and also making sure that the ones that don't currently have a place, you know, there's a robust system, you know, that is there to take care of them, whether it's like collaborating with, you know, other shelters or like, you know, backup, you know, like just to have a system, you know, that you know that, I mean, there should be a baseline of a city like this that is thriving. It's almost like somebody's at the beacon of the hill, you know, the candle, the light, you know, and we've been that bold city that, you know, want to lead. And so it's really nice to bring all these things into perspective and try to solve them, you know, together. It's talking about them, knowing who we have, like how they come to school, where they go afterward, and you know.
Yeah, it's a big issue. And I'm sure there's a lot more we could dive into, but we are out of time for today. So we'll definitely have you back a little later on when we can kind of talk more about some of these issues that you and the rest of the city care about, and kind of after you've had a chance to do some more work with the board. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and hope you tune in next time for Alderman at Work.
Thank you.